piece and for those particular dimensions. Any questions?
Well, good evening.
Late. Better late than not at all. Sorry I missed it last time.
Okay.
Okay, that's for the library.
And this is for the MGC. So these are for the adhesive vinyl window wraps in the front of the building. So what you see on the left-hand side here is doubled on both sides of the front. So here's the front, the entrance. Then you've got these on this side and on this side of the entrance. So there's just mirrored image of each other, I believe. Is that correct, Rudy?
Yes.
Or is it just the, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm incorrect. So on the left side of the entrance, there are just the 7 windows that you see here. There are 4 of them, but there are 7 on the left side of the entrance. And then both of these are on the right side of the entrance.
Right. And those 2 window sets are mirror image of each other. And I think there's a total of 12 panels each?
That's correct.
Yeah, on the big windows.
Right here,
yeah,
these ones right
yeah.
here.
And then the smaller windows are basically 4 by 4, more or less.
Okay,
So these would be the adhesive type, unlike the banners for the library. These would be sticking to the windows, and they would be the perforated vinyl. So some light would be getting in, but for the most part, when you're standing outside, looking into the building, you see the image.
Do you know, are the windows to the left side, is it similar landscaping in front of the windows?
That's a great question. Actually, these ones right here,
Yeah.
that's only 4 of the 3.
Yeah.
So I believe that it is relatively
Yeah,
the same.
all the landscaping in front of the library is a similar theme, desert themed, cactus and yuccas, smaller cactus, barrel cactus, Palo Verdes. Yes, it's all pretty much common theme.
So they may be obstructed, the view, if that's what you're concerned about, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you want to talk about the center bank of the windows on the right?
So we did have an idea of doing the center windows here, and so that here on the left and on the right, the sun could still shine through. And the adhesive vinyl would be perforated, so it'd be holes so you can see out of it. People won't typically be able to see inside it.
Mr. Chairman, I did speak with Liz, Parks and Rec Director. You will notice that the 2 images of the windows on the left side of the page here are tinted windows, and Liz was of the opinion, and actually those center windows, the tall windows, are also tinted, although not as dark. So one perhaps minor concern is that the tinting would need to be removed first before a new application would be put on.
I'm working with a vendor right now who said that they can be applied to a tinted window.
Oh, great.
So
Okay.
the question is, which I don't have an answer for, is when you take that, because it's temporary, when you take it off, is it going to take the tinting off with it?
Yeah.
So,
good question.
Some of that vinyl, doesn't it just stick like with water? Like, don't you just wet it and stick it like those little peely things that kids have? Or when it's that big, does it need more of an adhesive?
it's an adhesive,
It is an adhesive.
because it's going to be subjected to the elements, so they,
It's gonna be put on the outside
Yeah.
rather than the inside out?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, water would work on it.
I think it might be that like with the tint windows.
What?
With the tint windows, they are adhesive, just slide it. Yeah, that's exactly probably the same thing.
so, yeah, so the center bank, all those windows there, all 3 columns are tinted, but it's only the center bank that we're going to be using and putting the adhesive, so some light's going to get through, but for the most part, when you stand outside, you're going to see the artwork.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's just the center, not the 2 on the either side.
Just the center column.
Just the center.
Yeah, to allow light on either side.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Well,
Any
see,
other
we
questions?
also had,
Oh.
you were also looking at vinyl, you were looking at utility box wraps too, right?
Yes.
That's correct. That actually is a slide, but I'm not sure. So we were having issues with our systems today. They kind of crashed. I'm not sure if it's happening again.
Really?
Yeah. So let me go, I'm gonna go talk to.
I need to back up. Did we decide
is
to
it-
do the multi-generational in the library because they're city buildings and we have to do it on a city building?
We were,
Am I
last
asking, I should ask that
last
louder.
meeting, we ran through
Erica,
library,
Diane,
MGC, police department, and utility box wraps. So I think that's what what's gonna be, but we didn't have Diane with us.
No, I wasn't here.
I still like the idea of something at the police department where they do their public announcements in front of that wall there.
Yes, yes.
Because right now, you watch them, the police chief's standing up and it's this bare ugly wall behind him.
Right.
I think it'd be nice to have a piece of art behind him, because we're not the only community that sees those.
Right.
Sometimes other communities, like Mason, Gilbert, and Chandler, will see our police chief standing in front of a bare wall versus a nicely decorated wall. So I'd kind of like to see
Exactly
it.
the intent. That is.
So I'd kind of like to see us go with that one too.
Yeah.
And I notice it's not on the direction to motion to staff.
Well, and that certainly is on our radar, Mr. Chairman, but Diane and I were speaking last week. That is, and Diane, please, if I'm speaking correctly here, that is probably going to be a more important piece because it has to, yes, you want it to convey public safety, but it also, maybe not as whimsical as perhaps your other pieces,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. A more serious
Yeah,
representation of the city.
right, right. You want it to be dignified, you want it to represent public safety, you want it to send a positive message. So that one might be one that we want to think about a little bit more, maybe after the holidays. Start on a couple of these projects before the holidays and maybe think about the police mural and pedestals in general after the holidays.
After the holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I had another question about the utility box wraps. Diane, this is for you. Are they typically vinyl wrapped or are they hand painted?
The preference is vinyl,
Why is that?
because if it's hand painted and it gets tagged or whatever, there's
It's
not
harder
a
to
whole lot
clean.
of recourse. But if it's vinyl wrap and it's somehow vandalized, then there's the ability to make another one, take the old one off
We can
completely
replace
and
it.
put a new one on.
Plus, the paint doesn't stand, I've seen communities where they go out and they paint them themselves, and they don't stand up in this
Yeah.
weather very long, and then they look messy if you don't have a plan to go back in and repaint them or do something, you've got more maintenance, I think, if you're using the
I
paint.
think the painting works in a different type of climate as well, because I think that you're gonna have a lot of fading. It is a temporary project. You want it up there for probably 2 to 3 years. They guarantee at least 3 years. But the sun is definitely gonna take its toll. And Erica's slide presentation has images of 4 different areas where staff is recommending to put wraps on different corners. And as was mentioned earlier, this is getting art out of just the center area. So this is getting art on the streets, so people can see them. They don't just have to come to the city center to see them.
Well, how were these 4 chosen, and would there be other options out there that we could add to it?
Well, we did discuss putting them at all of our intersections, but, we want to take baby steps, I guess, in a certain sense. So we thought maybe 4 that would be the most impactful would be at the entrances of our community, which would be Meridian and Apache Trail. We also thought about Idaho and Southern, not Idaho and the freeway, because Idaho and the freeway is controlled by ADOT, that
Right.
interchange.
Right.
And then we started thinking a little bit more, and actually all of the intersections on Idaho may be ADOT controlled. So the locations that were suggested in here don't hold us to those.
Is that because it's part of,
Yeah, we'd have to
88?
probably coordinate with ADOT on some of those. But anyway, that's the idea. Let's put them at our city entrances if at all possible so that we can start making an impact when folks come into the community. And if we can put them along Idaho, which is probably our most traveled roadway, you know, people use that road to go to the lakes and
Right.
stuff. That's why we suggested the locations along Idaho.
Okay, were any other locations along the Apache Trail considered?
There was one, Erica, was there one on Old West Highway?
Yes, there's one along Old West Highway in Tomahawk. But we decided to leave it maybe at 4. Diane had mentioned that it is quite extensive work, time-consuming. So we thought maybe we'd cut it off at 4, but that's entirely up to this commission.
Cut it off at 4, we could always revisit it again and expand the selection,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So this would just be, this would be a start then.
The traffic,
right.
Yeah.
Doing a call to artists the way we did with the dog park. And this will be open to basically 2D as well as 3D artists, but it would be two-dimensional work. There's a greater pool of artists who can do 2D work. So put out the call to artists. It would be local. We'd want somebody probably in the Phoenix area to apply for this. Trevor's from Tucson, so that's always a possibility. But they need to come up to the site. They need to see the terrain and everything else in the neighborhood. And then have a selection panel, select 4 artists for the 4
We
different.
are looking at one artist for each box.
One different artist for
Good.
each box. So you're spreading it out to 4 different artists. And they will likely be emerging artists. So this is a great leg up for people who want to just start their career in public art. And then they would work with the community, they'd work with staff, the way Trevor did, and then come up with a design, and it would go back to the panel and would come to you to approve the design.
Now, they have to design, they just come up with the design. The technical aspects of how it gets put on the boxes is done by what, the city?
So first, we get the dimensions. Let's just pick one box. You get the dimensions of all 4 sides. You have to take into account where the handles are, because you have to open up most of these boxes. Some have decals. So you need to get basically the layout of the 4 different sides and get the dimensions. And then it goes to the artist. The artist needs to be very well versed in different types of design platform. So the artist is going to design for the space. It gets put in a special type of file, and then it goes to the fabricator, the vinyl wrap fabricator, who produces it and also installs it.
So would the city have like elevations of the boxes that would be provided to the artists for their use? Or would they be responsible for coming out and taking measurements? And
I think it's safer to come out and take the measurements. And what I would recommend is whoever's going to be creating the vinyl, installing it, come out and take the measurements themselves. And then have someone with the staff check on that and make sure, concur that those are the dimensions, so that everybody is well aware of, because if you're off by half an inch or something, it makes a huge difference.
Sorry, Diane, is it possible for you to describe a little bit what happened to a previous project when,
The previous project?
yeah, when you got the measurements from the city and it wasn't correct?
Yeah, I've done projects like this before, and for the most part, if you limit it to artists who have graphic design capabilities, it goes much more smoothly. There are some artists who create painted artworks, and then they want to photograph it, and then they want to put it in a file. And that's very, very difficult to do. So it's doing 4 different wraps. You're working with 4 different artists, 4 different dimensions, 4 different utility boxes or cabinets, traffic cabinets, whatever. So it can be rather time-consuming. You've got to have everybody on the same page in terms of the dimensions of the box.
We can check with Public Works. Hopefully, we have some specs for these boxes. I don't know that they're all the same. I don't know if they're all standard, but certainly we will check to see for any available information.
Now, are we talking just the 4 sides and the top, or just the 4 sides? Excuse me.
It's the top
It-
2, I think, isn't it?
It could be the top as well. I mean,
Some
I
of our
can-
boxes aren't that high. And
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to have the top done too,
Yeah.
which creates another issue for the design artist, of course.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I could ask, if, this is not just city boxes, these could be utility companies, right? SRP,
We're gonna, I think we start with the city traffic cabinets,
Mm-hmm.
because getting the permission from SRP and other utilities could be a lengthy process.
yeah, I wanted to ask if that does get done in other cities, like with water companies, a special water company, or SRP, or with APS, for example, which is, they don't have APS here. But if that is done, we would definitely need something in writing.
Oh, yeah, there'd have to be agreements with them, and they would have to approve. I imagine they would also have a hand in the design approval, since it's their property.
Having worked with energy companies in the past around their utilities, they are very particular about
Yeah.
what you do
Yeah.
near them and with them.
Well, because you're messing with their brand now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're identifying city-owned
city-owned
cabinets.
cabinets.
I guess where it'd be kind of crucial to iron out what the approach would be would just, in the RFP, I think it would be pretty necessary to make it clear if someone is required to kind of own the dimensionality of it, if they had need to come take their own measurements, that way it's just clear from the get-go what the time is that someone will be committing to do it, what the risk they're taking on, because there's a lot of people comfortable with drawing in AutoCAD or drawing in Adobe Illustrator that may not be comfortable coming out with a tape measure, I imagine.
I think it would be very beneficial to start with the city and see if the city has specs for these cabinets, and then go out and actually measure and see if the specs are correct, because if they're off like a half an inch, that's a problem. And then, yes, when an artist is selected, it'll be a local artist, and ask him or her to go out and take their own measurements.
Yeah, I think that should be a requirement, that they should take their own measurements, and then their measurements can be compared against the ones we have that we've verified with the city. Make sure everybody's on the same page. It also would eliminate recriminations if something happened. Well, I had the right measurement, you got the wrong one. And I know that happens once in a while.
And another theory is have the vinyl wrap company come out and take measurements and then create a template. And that makes it much easier for the artist.
Have them create like a shop drawing for final sign-off.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. There's also, if we really wanted to get accurate, lots of 3D scanning technologies that could nail these things down in digital space. But I don't know if city has anything available to them then.
Like LiDAR, you mean?
Kind of.
We'll check. I don't know if we
Are
have anything
Are we that
like
high class yet?
GIS might have some technology we could use. I could reach out to them and
Yeah.
Who?
GIS,
Yeah.
the Geographic Information Systems.
okay.
Or anyone
Department over.
who does surveying. I know there's just a ton of technologies out there now that's with laser scanning, LiDAR. I mean, you can even do it with photographs. There's some technologies that you just, it takes composite photographs.
Yeah.
Well, I think the idea here is, since these are gonna be out in the public view, more so than the dog park is, for instance, that we really wanna do it right.
Yeah.
Make sure we get everything nailed down.
Well, we want something that's going to be recognizable for vehicular traffic.
Yes.
I mean, if these are not in city centers, you don't have a lot of pedestrian traffic, you're going to want something with a lot of color, a lot of form. So the artist is going to work, with the idea that people driving by, hopefully not at just 50 miles an hour, they're going to be able to see that.
Well, I think it should also be something simple. The designs can be nice and colorful, but they're also simple because you want the driver going 45 miles an hour to be able to see it. You don't want them to slam on the brakes to get a better look at it.
Yeah, it needs to be readable.
Yes, very. So real fine, what you'll be looking at is broad details rather than real fine. We're not doing a painting here, we're doing a piece of art on the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now in front of us, we have a direction to staff motion that basically covers the temporary vinyl banisters at the front of the library, the temporary adhesive window wraps for the multi-gen center, and then 4 utility box wraps. Are we okay with that, or do you guys got any other ideas of what you might want to see there? I understand that this is up to us to revise, so,
Real quick, I am gonna say we should probably hold off on the Idaho ones until we have confirmation
good point.
that ADOT is not gonna have an issue with that.
Rudy, are you in discussions with ADOT on this?
Not yet, Mr. Chairman.
Well, when you do,
Yeah.
would it be possible if it turns out to be much of a hassle, and I know dealing with the state can be a hassle,
Yeah, yeah.
do we have alternative sites we could look at
Yes, we can
instead?
certainly, and once again, that's why maybe we don't mention the 3 out of the 4 sites that are recommended in here. That way, that'll give us the flexibility to pick other appropriate locations.
Yeah, rephrase.
So
it.
let-
So rephrase it
say,
to-
you know, 4 utility box wraps in general?
Without going into
Yes,
details,
without,
yeah.
yeah, without specifying locations. We'll certainly check into.
So if we approve the
ADOT
4, then we
locations.
can decide where they go, where the 4 are later.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that at your next meeting.
So we'll have that by the next meeting then?
No, I think we can proceed with direction tonight, but we will verify location,
Well, that's what I meant, your homework can be done
yeah,
later.
yes.
Okay.
We can do the motion and then the 3 new sites can be brought in at the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
That sounds good to me. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
2 traders want to weigh in?
The only thing I have is, I move that the Public Art Commission give a direction to staff to submit a call for artists for the following items: temporary vinyl banners for the front of the library, temporary adhesive window wraps for the multi-generational center, and temporary utility box wraps for 4 intersections to be determined at a later date.
Very well put. I second that.
Rudy, roll call?
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, let the record show that Commissioner Klett and Commissioner Ham are present. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they showed up.
Yeah.
here goes the vote. Commissioner Klett,
Yes.
Commissioner Buys,
Yes.
Chairman Danford,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ham,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanza.
Yes,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I don't see any public here, so we're going to close the public art speaking part of this. I probably did this out of order. Okay, so that's our direction to staff. I did do that out of order. We have no old business to discuss tonight.
Not this evening?
We have no new business,
Nope.
as far as I know. We got any information reports from anyone? Any art-related news? I have one coming up in the weekend, I believe it's the first weekend of November, is the Artists of the Superstition Studio Artist Tour. We have 130 artists in that organization. There's going to be 10 studios set up, and the studios will range from anywhere from 5 artists to 15 artists at each studio. They will be setting up tents at various places on the properties, selling their work, their artwork, and talking to the public. So anybody that wants to see some great public art, and if you stumble on the right one, you'll see me there a couple days.
All right.
And what are the dates?
It's, I can tell you that real quick here. That's calendar date I'm already committed to. My wife will be showing her work, and she drags me along for grunt labor. I'm still getting used to phones. I've only had one for 10 years. That will be the weekend of November 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th?
You can go to the Artists of the Superstitions website, or you can contact me, and I can send you a map. And we have a map of all the gallery, all the studios, and pictures of some of the work that will be shown there. And everything there will be for sale. And we have some really good artists showing this year. Okay, Director's Report. Rudy, do you have anything else to report?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Any future agenda items that we'd like to talk about, guys, at future meeting? Well, not you two. You two? Anything you want to see us discuss in the next meetings?
No.
Okay, selection of meeting dates. Do we have a motion to select the next meeting date?
I move that the Public Art Commission hold a regular meeting on November 13th, 2023 at 5:30 PM in the City Council chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard.
You have a second?
Second?
Got it.
I second.
We need a roll call?
Commissioner Lanza,
Yes,
Commissioner Klett,
Yes.
Commissioner Buys,
Yes.
Chairman Danford,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ham.
Yes.
Okay, I now adjourn the meeting at 5:59.